The Motul FIM Superbike World Championship leaves the European mainland for the first time in 2022 for the Prosecco DOC UK round, our first race weekend in over a month. In the shadow of East Midlands Airport sits Donington Park, a truly iconic setting in the Leicestershire countryside, the birthplace of the series back in 1988. The shortest circuit on the calendar at just 4.023 kilometres, but also one of the fastest. Jonathan Ray's average speed was an eye-watering 168 kilometres per hour in Superpole this morning. Much of that pace comes from the first half of the lap. A traditional park layout, the riders sweeping between grass viewing areas with overtaking opportunities everywhere, as Toprak Razgatlioglu proved, surging through the field from 13th on the grid last year. The 550-metre Wheatcroft Straight presents the first overtaking opportunity into Redgate, but the longest straight is Dunlop. The Fogarty S's, the chicane at turns 9 and 10 mark a departure in circuit characteristics. The remainder is stop and go, which promotes overtaking. The most common moves into the Melbourne hairpin, which was added to the layout in the 1980s. The lap record fell this morning to Jonathan Ray, who shaved off around half a second. He also holds the race lap record that should also be beaten this weekend. Donington Park, Ducati are winless here since 2011, also the year they last won the World Championship through Carlos Checa. Another Spaniard leads the way for them in 2022 with 12 consecutive podiums and 6 wins, Alvaro Bautista. This, though, is his toughest test yet, returning to the venue where he lost the lead for the first time in 2019 to try and shake off the past. Steve English alongside me for race 1 of the 2022 Prosecco DOC UK round. Recent history then against the Bologna factory at Donington Park. But if Bautista has a good weekend here, it'll take something very special for him to lose in the title race.
I'm sure it was only coincidental. The flight we saw there, flight out to Barcelona, it feels like you're in Spain right now. Track temperatures, you can see there, 107 degrees. That equates out to 43 degrees centigrade. As hot as we've been all the way through this weekend, it's 24 degrees air temperatures. There's not really a breath of wind around here. You can see the flags moving slightly. This is perfect for everyone that's come to Donington Park. They're able to sit out in the banks and they're going to be treated to a great race here over the course of these 23 laps.
I undoubtedly approve of the level of efforts of getting the old flight tracker up in the early stages and the build-up to race 1 here at Donington Park. Plenty of milestones in the potential offing, podium records for 2 manufacturers that they could be hitting major milestones this weekend. But the focus in terms of the championship, that fight between Alvaro Bautista, Jonathan Ray and Toprak Razgatlioglu, our regular podium trio. They're now separated by 79 points. Bautista's been top scorer in all but one of the rounds. Razgatlioglu's been outscored by Bautista and Ray in each of the opening 2 rounds, and that's what's caused that spread between the 3 of them.
And you can see Per Riba on the left of the shot there. When we left the commentary box at the end of the Superpole session, we bumped into Riba. And he came around on the back of his paddock scooter to come over and tell us how happy he was with that Superpole session. He knows how good that lap was from Jonathan Ray. But it wasn't only one lap. It's been the whole weekend up to now.
4th place from race 2 last time out in Misano for Jonathan Ray, his worst finish of this season so far. 9 points lost in that race alone to Alvaro Bautista, but otherwise 10 podiums from 12, only 1 win behind his Ducati rival, and it has been a strong start to the season, even though he trails in terms of points.
Other than tough weekend in Misano where the track temperatures came up and he started to struggle relative to Bautista, it's been a really good, consistent start to the year for Jonathan Ray. He's 36 points behind in the championship standings, but this weekend he's the favourite out there. He's the guy that can go out and win these races. Bautista's the rider under pressure. In the Superpole session, this is catching it perfectly. You've got Kawasaki at one end of the pit lane, BMW at the other. Scott Redding's been fast all the way through this weekend. He worked with Jonathan Ray during the course of that session, got a slipstream from him. He was able to qualify in the second row of the grid, put another body between Jonathan Ray and Alvaro Bautista, and I think that shows you what Jonathan Ray is thinking right now. He knows Bautista's on the back foot. let's put the foot on him.
Yes, the only problem for Scott Redding is that his starts and BMW starts have been particularly poor in 2022, so he might not be between Ray and Bautista for too long.
Yeah, BMW had a couple of tests since then, and we've been able to see them make a lot of progress with the bike. They've got a new swing arm in the bike for Redding and for Loris Baz this weekend, and then for Redding he's also got a lot of changes to the bike to make it much more ergonomically friendly for him out there. That's translating into much more confidence. Hopefully the work that they did on their starts a couple of weeks ago will also help.
Scott Redding scored more points in the first 4 races in 2021 than he has in 4 rounds in 22. Since Aragon, though, he's averaged 9th, and at Misano last month moved top BMW in the championship. Certainly big weekend for the German manufacturer, as you say, bringing some important upgrades with them to the UK round.
Yeah, it was a horrendous start to the year in Aragon. There's no other two ways about it. Like, it really was about as disappointing a weekend as possible for Scott Redding and for a factory team. But since then, we've been able to see them chip away at it and make a lot of progress. Aston, obviously enough, the BMW was strong there. Whenever Ray and Razgadioglu were out of the race, suddenly they were elevated into a fight inside the top 5. But the progress that we've seen from them week on week, Redding as he gets more and more comfortable with that bike, has actually been impressive.
Alex Lowe's 3 retirements in the first 5 races of 2022 for him, but he's steadily moved up. He was outside of the top 10 in the championship and now sits 7th with 7 consecutive scoring rides. 1 top 5 finish at each round so far, so he has been on the pace everywhere he's gone.
Yeah, he's actually been impressive through the course of this year. The championship standings don't really show that. 7th in the standings right now and 145 points behind Bautista. You look at that in the box scores and you think it's been a really bad start to the year for those. But then you think about it, and he had a crash in Aragon. He admits that's his fault. Aston, he had a couple of retirements from technical failures. So other than those, he's been in there inside the top 6 pretty much all the way through the season. He's qualified well. He's closer to Ray over a single lap than most teammates have been to Ray. He's been able to qualify him at times over the last few years. So he's riding well. He's fully fit. And now's the chance for him to really be able to put all that into good use and see if he's able to come away with good results this weekend. Big
weekend last time out from Toprak. Razgatlioglu finally ended that 13-race winless run with victory at the Tissot Superpole race at the Emilia-Romagna round. His second retirement of the season, though, in race 1, and that's contributed to a 79-point deficit to the series leader, trailed by 52, arriving in Misano.
Yeah, and those non-scores really do become very costly for Toprak because he's only had that 1 race win in the Superpole race, like you said, and that's a 12-point race, so it's not even where you're making up massive chunks on everyone else. So for Toprak, it's been a little bit of a disappointing start to the year. There's not too much that can be said about it other than Yamaha have gotten themselves under the table now. They know the progress they have to make, the steps they have to make with the bike. Toprak's riding well, the team are working well. Now they're able to relax a little bit more into the role of being world champions without having to think that, as Toprak said in Misano, you have to lead every session because there's a #1 plate in your bike. It's not like that.
Razgatlioglu and Ray 10 podiums apiece, 12 podiums out of 12 for Alvaro Bautista. That level of consistency is also what contributes to the problem of trying to make up ground for the likes of Toprak.
Yeah, and when you're up against Ray and Bautista, they're so consistent out there. It is very difficult to close up those points margins, but it's also up to Razgatlioglu to maximise everything that he has available to himself. He did that last year. This year he's just come a little bit unstuck on a couple of occasions.
Championship leader Alvaro Bautista scored 2 victories last month at Misano. His highest scoring round of 2022 so far, dropped just 3 points for second place in the Superpole race. So 19 points gained over Jonathan Ray. His series lead more than doubled, up now to 36 points. What a fantastic weekend it was for him. And in the immediate aftermath, Ducati have confirmed his place in the team for next season as well.
Yeah, and I'd love to say it's no surprise to see Ducati keep Alvaro Bautista, but after 2019, you know, there are no surprises with Ducati when it comes to rider decisions, because obviously in 2019 the expectation was Bautista was going to sign a new contract, he was going to stay with Ducati, he was going to have a successful stint at Ducati. As it is, he had 2 years at Honda, their best forgotten, comes back to Ducati, and like you said earlier, Alex, 12 podiums in a row, winning a lot of races, leading the championship by 36 points. You have to keep him on.
Yes, it was a divorce that didn't really work out. I think both parties realised they missed one another, fell back in love, and the matrimony continues for 2023. Alvaro Bautista and Ducati will be a combination again next season. Just looking at the riders then, making their way. We've just got a few seconds now until pit lane opens, so the riders boarding their machines and making their way out towards the track. That there is Ika Lekuona, and he sits up in 5th position in the championship standings. He scored points in every every race so far this campaign, so 99 points from 4 rounds, and that's a solid effort from Lecuona so far.
Yeah, Lecuona and Bautista, the only riders that have managed that feat, and I think Iker's done a really good job this year. Honda clearly rate him very highly as well. He's going to be their lead rider at the Suzuka 8 Hours, so he's been busy testing for Honda in the World Superbike machine. He's been here at Donington Park, he's been at Misano, he's been testing the Suzuka bike out in Japan, so he's been busy, and he was saying to me on Thursday that I haven't actually had a weekend off since Misano. It's been bang, 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 and that's how he likes it.
Yes, he's come to Superbikes for a rest. No such luck. Not only the Superpole session, but 3 races, of course, the first of them today and another 2 tomorrow, the Tissot Superpole race. Well, at least it's the shortest one of the season, I suppose, and then race 2 in the afternoon. 23 laps ahead of us, plus the sighting lap, the riders making their way around now. A big weekend this for Alvaro Bautista. We've said previously this is not, in inverted commas, a Ducati circuit in the way of Aragon or Misano in particular, 2 of the venues that we've visited already this campaign. If Bautista walks away with the same kind of advantage that he's got at the moment, 36 points, then he would consider that a massive success regardless of how many victories he takes this weekend. Yeah,
if he can match the points total of Ray, it's a really good weekend. I think that's going to be a task too far really for Alvaro, but we also don't really know what Donington's like in these conditions. It's 44 degrees track temperature. It's going to get probably another couple of degrees hotter than that. We're not used to seeing that here at Donington. We're used to seeing in and around 38, 39 degrees. This is a little bit of a step into the unknown, and we know that as the track temperature heats up, the Ducati works a little bit better. What is interesting is this weekend, Pirelli has got no real options out there for the tyres. We've got just 1 tyre of each compound, so the teams know in advance pretty much what they're going to run, because as the track temperature comes up, you use a softer tyre. Everyone's going to be out in this race, you'd imagine, on the X tyre, and then you're going to be able to just pick and choose the front tyre that you like using. So there's a lot of decisions that are almost taken out of the team's hands whenever the allocation is given like this, and that means they could really focus on getting the best setup possible from their bikes and maximising their track time.
Disappointing Superpole performance for Andrea Locatelli. First time he's qualified behind the 2nd row of the grid this season, so he's going to have a bit of work to do this afternoon, lining up P9. This is Leon Haslam. Welcome return to the Superbike World Championship for him, his 2nd appearance of this 2022 campaign. And the only problem for him is that the bike itself seems a little bit down in pace. You never usually see Leon Haslam this far back, particularly here at Donington Park.
Yeah, we've seen Leon has some great results here in the past on a lot of different bikes. He was actually quite fast in the free practice session, picked up 1 or 2 fast laps, was able to move into the top 10, but on the Pedercini Kawasaki it is difficult to do that, and he's there on the 5th row of the grid, so we'll wait and see what Leon can do. But he's giving up around about 12-13 kilometers an hour on the straight each lap, so that puts him at a big disadvantage.
Yeah, less of a disadvantage though here with a 550 metre start-finish straight than at some of the other venues we face over the course of this season, and there are plenty of high-speed corners that require a technical knowledge and experience of the venue that may also play into the hands of those who've done the most laps around this place. And Alex Lowe's will certainly feel optimistic about his chances as he makes his way through the fast and flowing first 2 sectors.
Yeah, the fast flowing section down in towards the old hairpin. You can see big crowds there on the outside the corners as well, and in Parc Ferme, Lowe's was mentioning the impact that makes for him. And it's always interesting with some riders. They talk about the fact that being a home race, it doesn't make that big of a difference for me. Having a home crowd, no, it's okay, I'm always at my best. Some riders it does make a difference. It gives them a bit of a lift, and in Parc Ferme, Lowe's was pretty clear. He wanted to make sure he was going to give the crowd a big lift in this race as well. But it is good to see a big crowd here at Donington. We obviously had a big crowd at Misano last time as well, and certainly whenever you're able to come out and see some of the best racing in the world, it is a good incentive to come out on a sunny day like this.
I suspect that some of them say it doesn't make a difference to reduce the amount of pressure as well from a home round, so that may well also play a factor. We make our way then on to the grid. A reminder of the form guide here in Donington Park from years past as we take a look at the front row. Jonathan Ray, Alex Lowe's and Toprak Razgatlioglu. Race 2 crash here at Donington Park, the turning point for Ray's 2021 campaign. First of 4 crash-related retirements actually for him during during the season. Has recorded 5 wins in the last 3 UK rounds held here, though, including the Super Pole race last year. So certainly a strong contender around this venue.
Yeah, very strong. Jonathan, obviously enough with his stats, they're always very well padded out at each of the circuits that we've been coming to for a long time. But here at Donington Park, he is particularly strong. He's raced here all the way through his junior career as well in the British Championships, and a lot of success here on the world stage.
Second consecutive pole for him as well, as he lines up from first position. This the man who took the fight to him last year, Toprak Razgatlioglu. Toprak lining up P3. This the venue that he says is his best of all. He scored his first podium here in 2018. This is where he took the lead of the championship for the first time last year, as I said, on his way to the title with both feature-length race wins, and he is therefore our most recent winner here at Donington as well.
Yeah, really nice to see Herbie Blash back on the grid as well, and back with the Yamaha squad.
As this is Alex Lowes, who starts from second position, a home man, as we've said, here at Donington Park. He's been a podium finisher here in 3 different seasons, including last year. He was third in race 1 in 2021. Still chasing his first podium of 22, though. 4th places in Assen and Estoril, the closest he has come.
Yeah, Alex lives 5 minutes down the road, and says that this track is one that does suit his style. He's always had good results here, whether you're looking back to his BSB days or his career here in the World Championship as well. And last year, very strong here in the Kawasaki as well. Had a podium on the Saturday race.
Second row of the grid, Scott Redding, Alvaro Bautista and Michael Ruben Rinaldi. Redding, a race winner at Donington Park on 125 machinery in the early stages of his career. Did the triple here in 2019 on his way to the British title. But this is his lowest scoring venue of 2021. Scored just 13 points at the UK round last year. That dropped him out of the race for the championship. Up in P4 on the grid here this afternoon. Let's hear from him.
Scott, this is the best we've seen from BMW so far this weekend. Of course, temperatures have risen dramatically in the last couple of hours. How are you feeling going into this one?
Yeah, to be honest, the temperatures after riding in Misano, I think they favoured me a little bit. So I'm feeling pretty good. It's temperatures no one's ridden this weekend, so we're all kind of in the same boat. But let's see, we've had a strong weekend, to be fair. We had a good qualifying. I really wanted that front row. Just missed it on a small mistake in Foggies. But now it's race time, so let's see what we can do for 23 laps.
Best of luck.
Thanks, mate.
Scott Redding then lines up from P4 on the grid.
Yeah, and a relaxed, happy Scott Redding is always a fast one, and certainly this weekend he's been very fast. The upgrades to that bike, the testing they've done, it's made a big impact.
Alongside Scott Redding then will be the championship leader, Alvaro Bautista, winner in half of the 12 races in 2022 thus far. Jonathan Ray receiving his Super Pole watch, his second pole position of this season. Toprak had already had 2 in the early stages of the campaign. Just 1 point now between them in the Tissot Super Pole award. But yet another front row start for Jonathan Ray.
Yeah, I think that the one thing to take from that is that Tissot needs to give Lee a t-shirt rather than having to wear a jacket to have the logos on down there. Very hot for conditions like that, as Scott Redding was saying on the grid.
Absolutely. Scott Redding, Alvaro Bautista already mentioned. His teammate Michael Ruben Rinaldi lines up from P6. Scored his first podium finishes of the 2022 season last month at the Emilia-Romagna round. Went 2 rounds without a top 6 finish. Donington Park hasn't been a great venue for him in the past. His previous best here just 8th. So this a real test of his often criticised consistency.
Yeah, for Rinaldi, the big thing this season is it's trying to almost take some of the peaks down a little bit, but just make sure that his bad weekends are a bit better as well. And he's been able to do that by and large. He sits 6th in the World Championship. He's been closing up on the riders around him. This weekend's important to see if he's able to come away with some decent points paying finishes.
Catching up with the championship leader then, the man who crashed out of race 1 here in 2019. That result dropping him from the lead of the championship that year. Went on to score a podium in race 2, but 8th was his best in 3 races here with Honda in 2021. So not the happiest of hunting grounds for the Spanish veteran.
No, it's a tough circuit, and the Ducati doesn't work well here. Obviously the Honda was a bit of a handful as well, so maybe we haven't fully seen the best we can see from Alvaro Bautista around this track. He did find a lot of time in the Super Pole session, so whether he can find that consistently in the race is going to be a challenge. Best
lap leader, the man with the most fastest laps in 2022 is Jonathan Ray, and it was a fast lap to get him on pole position earlier on today. Wouldn't put it past him to improve on his own lap record over the course of this afternoon.
No, and you could see a smiling Per Reba in the background there as well. And Reba is as competitive as Ray, and he knows that this is a chance to make up big points in the championship. 36 points the deficit. They want to be able to take a big chunk out of Alvaro Bautista today.
Third row of the grid, Iker Lecuona, Garrett Gerloff and Andrea Locatelli. Lecuona, the only rider other than fellow countryman Alvaro Bautista to have finished inside the top 10 at every race this season so far. Sits 5th overall, ahead of his first competitive visit to Donington Park. He did test here last month, so at least he has some laps under his belt.
Yeah, and he knows the track a bit better. He says that the track's a lot of fun to ride. It's quite a technical track though, so just trying to still get himself fully ready for the race. He's going to learn a lot in these 23 laps. Garrett
Gerloff, runner-up here in race 2 of the 2021 UK round, and that was his last podium 34 races ago. 6th in the championship when he last arrived here at Donington Park. This year he's just 12th, a single 7th place, the best of his results in 2022.
Yeah, and to put a bit of context in that as well, we have a 36 race season this year, so almost a full season's worth of races since being on the podium. He's a fast rider, we know what he can do. That's a very disappointing run of form. He really needs to get himself back on the box.
Yes, and more than a calendar year as well. Andrea Locatelli lining up P9, making his 50th Superbike start this afternoon. Suffered his lowest scoring weekend of the 2021 season here at Donington Park, just 6 points. So looking to make amends for that as he defends 4th overall. 9 consecutive top 6 finishes to his name since his race 2 crash in Aragon.
Yeah, top rack on the front row of the grid. We've had Gerloff top free practice 3. Locatelli though, a crash yesterday morning, and it hasn't been an easy weekend. He's been in and around that 9th, 10th and 11th position all week.
Luca Mayas making a welcome return to the grid this weekend after his injury struggles and absentees. 7th place, his best finish in 31 Superbike starts. That was here at Donington Park last year. UK round as a whole, his highest scoring effort yet. As I say, right hand injury for Luca Mayas forced him to miss the Emilia-Romagna round.
Yeah, you can see the extent of it there on that little finger for Lucas, but good to have him back here, and there on the 4th row of the grid. That's another good indication of how strong the Kawasaki is, because through most of this weekend he's been batting in and around that 10th position.
He is on the 4th row of the grid in 10th position. Alongside him, Axel Bassani. On the outside of him is Taron Taz McKenzie, who completes row number 4. This then is Axel Bassani lining up from P10. Only turns 23 next weekend, but he is making his 50th Superbike World Championship start today. 4th place from race 1 last time out in Misano. 10th place, his best around this venue from 3 races last year.
Yeah, and again for Bassani, he's in and around the kind of performance he's had all the way through this weekend. 8th in the World Championship. He's a rider a lot of people expected to see make a bit of a step forward this year, but he's just been pretty consistent in and around those positions.
Mackenzie had been announced as a wild card for the Dutch round earlier on in the season, but suffered a broken ankle in a pre-season crash at Silverstone. Also impacted his British Championship campaign, made his racing return here at Donington Park in late May.
Yeah, Taz McKenzie going almost a full second faster than he's ever gone around Donington Park, so that's impressive for him. It's made a big step forward, obviously using the electronics on the bike. Very different for him to get his head around, but he's doing a good job here to qualify inside the top 12. 5th
row of the grid for Loris Baz, Philip Ertl and Leon Haslam. Baz unfortunate in the Super Pole session, and only 7 points for him at Misano last time out. His weekend only really notable for recording his 150th Superbike start. Made his WorldSBK debut at Donington Park all the way back in 2012. A couple of second places here in 2014, and now he's back here for the first time since 2019.
Yeah, and certainly one of those situations for Loris. The crash in the Super Pole session puts him very much on the back foot, but he's been happy with the upgrades to the BMW. He's also using the same upgrades as Scott Redding, and that means that he's got a lot of confidence in that bike now. But the big thing for Baz was he got out for 1 lap at the end of the session, put him on the 5th row of the grid, and now he just has to try and recover.
Look who's here!
Fantastic weather, and we're set for a great World Superbike race.
Oh, that sounds good. He has been doing a bit of TV work, but a nice stand-up in the middle of the live broadcast from Tom Sykes, and never short of a few words is he, Tom Sykes, whose lap record was taken away from him earlier on today by a fine performance from Jonathan Ray, but I'm sure he would have been there or thereabouts for single lap pace had he been on our grid this season. Continuing on then with the grid presentation, 5th row of the grid here, we've got Philip Ertl, who lines up in P14. And Ertl himself recently back from injury. Season's best of 7th from race 1 at the Dutch round for him. Since then he's only scored in 1 race. 11th place from race 2 for him in Misano. Crash and mechanical retirement, his other results on his comeback from a collarbone injury. Rounding out your top 15 is Leon Haslam. Well, nobody's ridden more laps around this place. 22 World Championship starts, 19 in the British Championship, including their visit here in May. Picked up his last podium with Kawasaki Kawasaki here in 2019, and this was his highest scoring venue during 2021 with Honda. Those are your top 15. Points available for the top 15 at the checkered flag after 23 laps here today. Opportunity to head down to the grid once again with Anthony Nelson.
Thanks, Alex. I'm here standing here with the record race winner here at Donington Park, Tom Sykes. Good to see you here, sir. What do you think for this race right now about the start?
I think we're set for a great race. The weather here at Donington is fantastic, and with weather like this, there's no better place. I'm slightly envious. That run down the crane of curves is going to be something special today. Having said that, I watched the Super Pole from the side of the track, and no surprise considering the nature of the character of the bike and his riding style. I really think Jonathan is the one that's set for the race win today. Having said that, his teammate is right behind him. So yeah, Kawasaki, like we understand, working well. But I have to say, I've got an eye on Toprak. We know he goes well around here. But also from Alvaro, they look to have made a step in terms of the way the bike's working around here. So I can't wait. May as well go and get a proper pot of tea because I'm excited for this one.
Good to say about myself. Thank you very much, mate.
Tom Sykes saying that he was very confident that Jonathan Rea was going to win, but then listed all the people that he thought might be able to take the fight to him, which was almost everyone on the front 2 rows of the grid. So we could be in for a good race.
Yeah, this is usually the challenge whenever you're trying to pick a winner in WorldSBK at the minute, because there's a lot of riders that can get into the fight, and now it's up to them to really be able to prove it. But I think here at Donington Park, there's a lot more bikes and riders that are able to be a bit more competitive. Obviously, Ducati's a little bit on the back foot. BMW on the ascendancy this weekend. You wait and see what everyone else is able to do, but it should be a great race.
Well, Tom Sykes so enthusiastic about the race to come. He really sounded like he wished he was on the grid here today. These are the men that are the front row: Jonathan Rea, Alex Lowes and Toprak Razgatlioglu. Championship leader Alvaro Bautista comes from row number 2, hoping to end a decade of ducks as far as victories for Ducati. $499 podiums for Kawasaki, 48 of them, so almost 10% here at Donington Park.